Hello, welcome to Matthew chapter 25. We are still in what's called the olivet discourse. This is the things that Jesus was telling his disciples on the Mount of Olives. And it's still dealing with eschatology. So that is the study of end times and things to come. So in the last chapter, Jesus was giving prophecies about what the disciples can expect and what we should expect. And I'm not going to get into the big details of this because it's not easy to weave through the different systems of theological ideas about this, but I will say that pretty much everybody believes that Jesus is returning and that hasn't happened yet. And but there is a question I will look at, and that is that there are these signs that Jesus talks about, and then there's this idea that he's going to come like a thief in the night. He's going to come at any moment. And so it's kind of like, well, which is it? Are there going to be signs, or is it going to happen all of a sudden? And I'm under the impression that as far as his return is concerned, that is going to happen quickly. That's going to happen, and it's going to be a surprise. And the reason I think that that's the part that's talking about his return, or what's to come, is because of the parables that he says in this chapter. Now, he said one in the last chapter also, where he left his servants in charge of this estate, and the servants were sleeping, and they said, "Oh, he's delayed." His being delayed, I think, is a reference to the fact that it's been about 2,000 years since he said these things, and it still hasn't happened. And so in the first parable of chapter 25, it's called the parable of the 10 virgins. Today we'd probably call it the parable of the bridesmaids. But the same kind of thing happens where they said, the bridegroom is delayed. And it's showing that we're supposed to wait for him, and we're supposed to be ready for him. So the parable kind of goes like this, that there's these 10 bridesmaids, and they're waiting for the bridegroom to come, and they've got these lamps. They may be torches. It's the same word in the Greek. And you have to put oil on them, when the bridegroom comes, and then there's going to be a procession. So the fact that there's 10 is not significant. It was just a number that they would often use, back then to tell parables. I've also heard, I watched 2 different sermons on the matter. One of them looked at the fact that they were sleeping and was saying, it's really good that they went to sleep. That's what we're supposed to do. And then I watched another sermon where the guy said, these bridesmaids were all bad. They were all sleeping. So it's like, which is it? Is it good that they were sleeping, or was it bad that they were sleeping? And the truth is, it's not good or bad. It has nothing to do with the point of the story. What does happen in the story, though, is 5 of them are not prepared. They see that the bridegroom is coming, and they say, we don't have enough oil for our lamps. And so they ask the wise virgins, and they say, there won't be enough for all of us. Why don't you go and buy some? And while they're out buying it, they come back and the bridegroom is gone and the wise bridesmaids are also gone. And then when they go to where the feast is, the wedding, which is almost always in these parables, if there's a banquet or a wedding feast, it's almost always talking about heaven. So they knock on the door and the groom says, I never knew you. This whole section is talking about how in this time that we're waiting for Jesus to come back, we're supposed to prepare and we're supposed to wait for him and we're supposed to live our lives as though he's going to come back any moment. And I said that these brides, they weren't investing in the idea that it was going to come. But then there was another parable where he's talking about investing. It's called the parable of the talents. And the talents is a form of money. And he said that there was 3 servants, and they were high servants, ones that you would give them money and you're expecting to get some sort of investment out of them. And so the 3 servants, one of them, he gave 5 talents, one of them he gave 2 talents, and one of them he gave one talent. And so the one with 5, he made investments and he got back 5 talents. So he had 10 in total. And the one who had 2, he invested and he got 1 back. And the one who only had 1 talent, he buried it. And Jesus, in the parable, he's really upset with them. He's saying, you're a wicked servant. And he says, take what you have, take your 1 talent and give it to the one with 5, because he's a good servant. Now, what does this mean for us? This means that we, especially as rich Americans, we have opportunities and we have the ability to do so much good on this earth. We have the ability to tell people about eternal life. We have the ability to not worry about ourselves. It's a pretty I was going to say outrageous, but it's a pretty radical idea to live for other people and not for yourself. Before Jesus came, this is something that people just didn't do. Everything was just a rat race. But we have the ability to live for other people and not to worry about this life to come and not worry about status and so many things that we can get caught up with in this world. And that's kind of illustrated in the next part, because it's talking about God dividing the good from the bad. And he talks about how he said, I was hungry and you fed me, and I was naked and you clothed me, and I was in jail and you came and you ministered to me. And everybody said, well, when did that happen? And he said, well, when you do it for the least of these, you do it for me. So that is what we should do. He's telling us, if you want to be a good servant, or a good bridesmaid, you need to look at this world and think, Jesus is going to come back. There's going to be a judgment. And when that judgment happens, he can say, well done. And what a glorious thing that could be if we just forget about the things of this earth. We already owe God everything for saving us. And the only important thing that happens in this world is us connecting with him. So it can be a glorious life if we just live that way. But if we don't, there's judgment for that also. So we need to live life thinking he's going to return, and we need to be excited about his return. We need to prepare for it. We need to invest in it. So that is the Olivet Discourse in Matthew chapter 25. All right, bye.